Eriwo ya, eriwo ya, moleriwo ya. Ayagbo, ayato, ayaje, ayamu. Omeriwo sinkpe, ekaleo. Maybe you guys sit over here so that. Thank you. Welcome back. We are here to pay homage to Orunmila and to all the Orisha once again. And I'm so grateful to be here because, as the old folks say, every day above ground is a blessed day. So we've been chosen by Olodumare to be here. And every chance we get to live our destiny, we have to appreciate it to the fullest. And we have to make sure that we do the best we can with the time that we have. Today, we're going to talk about Ifa and um, talk about Ifa divination, something that is a very important component to our spiritual practice. First, I want to pay homage to Olodumare, Iba Olodumare, Iba Orunmila, Iba Eshu, Iba Oshun, Iba Shango, Iba Obatala, Iba Egbe, Iba Baba, Iba Yeye, Iba Oluwo, Iba Ojubona, Iba Bobo Irumole Ojukotun, Iba Bobo Irumole Ojukosi, Iba Egungun Baba, Iba Egungun Iya, Iba To. We pay homage to all the forces that's come before us. We pay homage to our ancestors. We pay homage to our teachers. We pay homage to our fathers and mothers. And we give thanks for this opportunity to be before you, Orunmila. We ask that you continue to bless us all and allow us to see success in our life. This practice that we have now, what we call Ifa, is very important. It's a practice that has been handed down to us through Orunmila. Orunmila has given us the means and the resources for us to be able to take care of ourselves, to be able to bring blessings of healing to ourselves, to bring blessings of spiritual well being and spiritual protection as well. And it's so important for us to understand that what we practice is not a religion. And I've been seeing a debate about this online. Some people are saying it's a religion. But the reason why I say it's not a religion is that Ifa is practiced many different ways in many different places. Ifa is practiced many different ways in many different places. Because it's practiced in many different ways, that's what makes it not a religion. It's not a set way that is being codified and has been practiced all over, and there's no group of people that are maintaining the um, the way that it's practiced. There's no one correcting people if they're doing it wrong. There's no body that is a board that's overseeing what people are doing and making sure it's being done to a certain code. So because there's no overarching body, then people over the years have developed various different practices. The way that people even started practicing Ifa was because when Orunmila was on earth, Orunmila traveled all over the earth, teaching people about Ifa, using Ifa to heal people, using Ifa to bring people in alignment with their destiny. So people were coming to Orunmila when he was on earth. And when Orunmila felt that it was time for him to travel back to the heavens, he turned himself into a palm tree, but not any type of palm tree, but the sacred palm tree that gives the Ikin Ifa. And the Ikin Ifa are the small palm seeds that are used for prayer and ritual with Orunmila. So he turned himself into this tree, and this tree is not a normal palm tree because the Ikin Ifa are different than normal palm nuts. And so this special tree is called Okpe, Okpe, O-P-E. So that's an important word to know. The Okpe tree is when a palm tree produces the sacred Ikin Ifa. There's very few all over Yoruba land, all over the world. And so as a result, when one is found, they tie a white cloth around it and people guard it with their life. They give offerings to it. They really worship the tree because any tree that we find, we know that this is actual Orumila in the flesh that has turned itself into this before he went into the heavens. So the Ikin Ifa, the palm kernel, the palm nut, sorry, uh, is unique and new, not new, but unique because this type of palm nut has 4 or more eyes on it. Okay, 4 or more eyes. 4 and 5 is very common, and then you start getting into the rare Iking, which are 6 eyes. So the palm nut that is the one that we pray to, that we worship, and that we use for divination is called Iking. It's called Iking. And this Iking is something that is very sacred and something that's very special. Very sacred and very special. The Iking. And so when Orumila went back into the heavens, he turned himself into this palm tree and he said, use this Iking when you want to communicate with me. I'm not here on earth any longer, but you will always have access to me by um, communicating to me through this Iking. Okay. So it's very important to know that when we are using the Iking, we are conceptually actually interfacing with the body of Orunmila. Now, when we are praying to the Iking, when we're giving offerings to the Iking, when we are doing readings with the Iking, we're actually using the body of Orunmila that he left for us to be able to communicate to him, and that he is the liaison for us to communicate to Olodumare. Whenever we do a reading, we are actually communicating with Olodumare through Orunmila, Ile Ijuba, okay? And so the Iking are his body. We use the Iking to do the divination on very special occasions. And this is something that I want to talk about because 2 people today have asked me a question about this. So I said, well, this determines what we're going to talk about in our session today, because if 2 totally different people ask me this question, that means that this is something we need to talk about. So the Iking Ifa is the rituals that are done with it are very special. Thank you, son. Very special. And as a result, they are something that are done with on a special occasion. When we do the reading with the Iking, there are various things that take place. One is that we must feed the Iking when we do the reading with kola nut and with oti. Before we even can say what the messages are, we must feed Ifa with these 2 ritual items. Then, when we do the reading with the Iking, we must do the Ebo, the spiritual work, within 48 hours. So when you are using the Iking, you are commissioning a Babalawo or Iyanifa basically for the day or for 2 days. You're saying that when we do this reading, we can't do anything else for the next day or 2 because you are completely dedicated to helping me complete my spiritual work. Watch your leg. So this makes it something that is very special occasion. This makes it so that it's something that's also very expensive. We're talking about king reading with the king. It makes it very expensive because you basically have hired a babalawo for the day. Because the reading is done within 48 hours, typically the ebo is done within 48 hours. Typically, we'll do the ebo right away. So we do the reading, and then we do the ebo, which are the offerings that are connected to the reading right away. You won't know what those offerings are. So after the reading, typically what we do is that we go and get the materials and then come back and then do the spiritual work. So it's usually done not even in 24 hours, but it's done within that 12-hour time period of the day. So this is a very, very special way of doing readings. Now, someone could do it all the time. Someone could do it every time they do a reading. But it would just be very expensive because you are commissioning this babalawo for the day to be your priest for the day. So the amount of time it takes to do a reading with the king could be an hour, hour and a half. Whereas when we use the opwele, that can be done within 20 minutes. So more people can be helped when using the opwele. It's so powerful. Ifa divination is so powerful because it's spiritual. Ifa spiritually is communicating with the universe, asking about the person that's getting the reading, and then delivering those messages to the babalawo, all without even using the person, meaning a reading can be done and the person is not physically there at all. That the person is actually, it could be in a whole nother country, a whole nother continent. But the spiritual work that is being done is so powerful that using the name of that person and some other things allows that reading to be done effectively because the spirit is interacting with the spirit of the person, not interacting with the body of the person. Okay, so these are details that I want to just go over because people have been asking me about these details. So when we do a reading, when we use the I Ching, there are these things that make it different. So someone would say, well, why not you always use the Opoele since the Opoele is faster? But because Orumila used to do his readings in this very way, even Orumila didn't use the Oponifa, which is the board. Orumila would actually take sand and put it on the earth, and he would be making the markings into the earth, just like when we do Ifa initiation. So when we do these markings into the earth, this is the original way. So when we use the I Ching to do readings, what we're doing is paying homage to Orumila in the original way of Ifa, so that one, it never gets lost, because we must always know the root. We must always know where we started, because Yoruba say that a river that doesn't know its source is sure to dry up. Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. So it's very important that we always remember our source. It's very important that we always remember how this whole thing has started. And so we use the I Ching to pay homage to Orumila, to pay homage to how this has begun, and to honor where we've come from in order for us to be able to gain the blessings of where we are now. So that's why we use the I Ching. That's why we keep it alive. And yes, it is a very powerful way of doing things, but because it takes so long to do the reading, it's something that we take time. Another thing that happens is when we do a reading with the I Ching, then we have to feed that I Ching also after we do the reading. So that's another step that then makes for a process with the reading to take uh, from beginning to end, including the offerings and spiritual work. It could take 6 hours. It could take 6 hours of the day. So it's a very long, special, ritualistic process. So we have another process that we were mentioning that we do our readings with, which is called the Okwele. Okwele is uh, a an approach to doing readings that was developed as a faster way of doing readings. And Opwele actually was used to be a servant to Orumila, one of the people that worked for Orumila. And or it's a long story, but to cut the story short, Orumila then took the Opwele, the person, and threw him on the ground and began doing the readings with him. But when we say a person, it's the same Opwele that we see, but this Opwele used to be able to walk around and had a family and did all those types of things. So we use Opwele, then we also have the 16 calorie divination. So the 16 calorie divination is another system. And this system was given to Oshun in order to support the work that Orumila is doing. Orumila would travel a lot because the work that he did with Ifa caused him to go to many places. And so when he was gone, you know, his clients, the people that he was helping, would still be coming for readings. So Olodumare gave Oshun the 16 calorie divination in order to be able to take care of those people that come. So the difference with the 16 calorie divination is that 16 calorie, you have 12 possible signs that you can be able to help someone with. 12 possible signs. Whereas with Ifa, you have 256 possible signs that you can help someone with. So that's a big difference. Now, there are 4 other signs when making 16 with the A&D Lagoon, but not all people know or use, I should say, not all people use all 16. So it's 12. So whatever the issue that person is facing, it has to fit within these 12 in order for the person that's given the reading to give the messages. And then the spiritual work that is done is also truncated, a shorter amount of work. So these are our 3 divination systems. I've been seeing online people referring to the what we do with the kola nut and obi as divination, but it's not considered divination. It's our way of communicating with the Orisha, but it's not a divination, meaning there's not an odu that's taken from it, meaning that there's not a long list of messages that are extrapolated from it, but it's only a way of communicating with the Orisha. The messages are what the Orisha give us if they give us a message. When we give offerings using kola nut, we don't always have messages. At times, the best possible scenario is that we get obien, which means that your offering has been accepted. That's the best thing. The next best thing that the Risha can say is that alafia, that you have blessings of peace and harmony and balance and good health. So it's very common for to get those 2 messages, which basically means, all is good. So that's not considered a form of divination for those reasons as well. Okay. So these are our forms of divination. To talk a little bit more about the the is such a special thing. So we have Iking that we received during our Ifa initiation. Then we have what's called the Isefa, the one hand of Ifa. This one hand of Ifa was created for people to be able to work with Ifa and to be able to give offerings to Ifa. When we giving offerings to Ifa, we're again referring to giving offerings to the Iking. And so it's very, again, everything that's dealing with the Iking is extremely ritualistic, very ritualistic. Every little thing that we do with the Iking is steeped in deep, deep ritual. So, one thing that I want us to go over today, to talk about today, and to practice and learn more about is the song that we sing when we get the good messages from Orumila. We've been learning them, and I want us to really perfect them because it's a very powerful thing to be able to do. Okay. And it's something that I want people to master so that you can do it in your own space at home. All right. So we're gonna go over them. This is gonna be a review for most people, but we have 2 extra that we are learning still that are at the end, which are the last 2 of the series of 5. So we're going to just kind of go call and response over the ones that we've been learning for people that's already been with us. If anyone is here and learning these for the first time, of course, write these down and just try to learn as best as possible. And then you can always contact me after to try to learn it more. And then we're going to focus today on the last two and really drill it into our minds so that we can really, really leave here with it being very clear. Okay. So we'll start at the beginning. For practice sake, I'll say the whole thing, then you say the whole thing. Okay. Kojema ba inú rẹ̀ ló dùn sí Ifá òjé kò bí sáwọ́ lówó kò jẹ́ má gbà inú rẹ̀ ló dùn sí Ifá òjé kò bí sáwọ́ lówó. Oh, they said that. Wake up. Next one. Gbogbo ní fágbó gbogbo ló gbà ṣe òṣè àwúrìlà gbogbo ní fágbó. Gbogbo ní fágbó gbogbo ló gbà ṣe òṣè àwúrìlà gbogbo ní fágbó. Next one. Ìyá kéré ẹ̀yin níyàwó ìmí wọ́n ń pè náyà kéré àwọ̀ ajá níbẹ̀ o. Ìyá kéré ẹ̀yin níyàwó ìmí wọ́n ń pè náyà kéré àwọ̀ ajá níbẹ̀ o. Very good. So that's reviewing what we've been working on. Will you grab my water? It's in the copper thing. That's where I sit. So let's go. Let's do it again before we start diving deeply into the next two. So I'm not gonna do the back and forth. I'm gonna just keep running through it so we can just get the melody and the rhythm and the vibe of it, because that's what's most important. But if you don't have the words, try to write the words down as you're hearing it. And I will say it slowly. Kojema ba inú rẹ̀ ló dùn sí Ifá òjé kò bí sáwọ́ lówó kò jẹ́ má gbà inú rẹ̀ ló dùn sí Ifá òjé kò bí sáwọ́ lówó. Very good. Next one. Gbogbo ní fágbó gbogbo ló gbà ṣe òṣè àwúrìlà gbogbo ní fágbó. Gbogbo ní fágbó gbogbo ló gbà ṣe òṣè àwúrìlà gbogbo ní fágbó. Next one. Ìyá kéré ẹ̀yin níyàwó ìmí wọ́n ń pè náyà kéré àwọ̀ ajá níbẹ̀ o. Ìyá kéré ẹ̀yin níyàwó ìmí wọ́n ń pè náyà kéré àwọ̀ ajá níbẹ̀ o. All right, beautiful. So we're gonna go back and break them down, but we're gonna move on. Excuse me. So the next one, we're gonna break this one down. I'm gonna say it, then I'm gonna point to you and gonna repeat. Afeke, afeke, afodale, afodale, ajeto, ajeto, bawo, bawo, ile loda o, ile loda o. Do that last line again. Ajeto, ajeto, pawo ile loda o, pawo ile loda o. That whole thing, that whole line right there. Ajeto, pawo ile loda o, ajeto, pawo ile loda o, ajeto, pawo ile loda o. Ajeto, pawo ile loda o. Very good. From the beginning of that, call and response. Afeke. Good. Afodale. Ajeto. Pawo ile loda o. Afeke. Kode. Kode. Afodale. ajé tó pawó ilé ló dà o. Good. Both of you gotta take your hoods off. Ajé àfẹ̀kẹ́ àfọ̀dàlẹ̀. Ajé tó pawó ilé ló dà o. Good. Àfẹ̀kẹ́ àfọ̀dàlẹ̀. Ajé tó pawó ilé ló dà o. Excellent. Àfẹ̀kẹ́ àfọ̀dàlẹ̀. Ajé tó pawó ilé ló dà o. The first two lines. Here I go. Àfẹ̀kẹ́ àfọ̀dàlẹ̀. Àfẹ̀kẹ́ àfọ̀dàlẹ̀. Ajé tó pawó ilé ló dà o. Ajé tó pawó ilé ló dà o. Good. Àfẹ̀kẹ́ àfọ̀dàlẹ̀. Àfẹ̀kẹ́ àfọ̀dàlẹ̀. Ajé tó pawó ilé ló dà o. Ajé tó pawó ilé ló dà o. Àfẹ̀kẹ́ àfọ̀dàlẹ̀. Àfẹ̀kẹ́ àfọ̀dàlẹ̀. Ajé tó pawó ilé ló dà o. Ajé tó pawó ilé ló dà o. Àfẹ̀kẹ́ àfọ̀dàlẹ̀. Àfẹ̀kẹ́ àfọ̀dàlẹ̀. Ajé tó pawó ilé ló dà o. Ajé tó pawó ilé ló dà o. Àfẹ̀kẹ́ àfọ̀dàlẹ̀. Àfẹ̀kẹ́ àfọ̀dàlẹ̀. Ajé tó pawó ilé ló dà o. Ajé tó pawó ilé ló dà. The whole thing. Here I go. Àfẹ̀kẹ́ àfọ̀dàlẹ̀. Ajé tó pawó ilé ló dà o. Àfẹ̀kẹ́ àfọ̀dàlẹ̀. Ajé tó pawó ilé ló dà o. Excellent. Àfẹ̀kẹ́ àfọ̀dàlẹ̀. Ajé tó pawó ilé ló dà o. Àfẹ̀kẹ́ àfọ̀dàlẹ̀. Ajé tó pawó ilé ló dà o. Beautiful. Àfẹ̀kẹ́ àfọ̀dàlẹ̀. Ajé tó pawó ilé ló dà o. Àfẹ̀kẹ́ àfọ̀dàlẹ̀. Ajé tó pawó ilé ló dà o. Beautiful. Let's go from the beginning. Kò jẹ́ mọ́ gbà á. Inú rẹ̀ ló dùn sí i. Ifa òjé kò bí sáwó lówó. Kò jẹ́ má gbà á. Inú rẹ̀ ló dùn sí i. Ifa òjé kò bí sáwó lówó. Gbogbo ní fagbó. Gbogbo ló bá ṣe. Ose awúrìlà gbogbo ní fagbó. Gbogbo ní fagbó. Gbogbo ló bá ṣe. Ose awúrìlà gbogbo ní fagbó. Ìyá kéré. Ẹ̀yin níyàwó. Ìmí wọ́n pẹ́ náyà kéré àwọ̀ ajá nígbè o. Ìyá kéré. Ẹ̀yin níyàwó. Ìmí wọ́n pẹ́ náyà kéré àwọ̀ ajá nígbè o. Àfẹ̀kẹ́ àfọ̀dàlẹ̀. Ajé tó pawó ilé ló dà o. Àfẹ̀kẹ́ àfọ̀dàlẹ̀. Ajé tó pawó ilé ló dà o. Now that toe, we're going to hold it a little bit longer. Ajé tó pawó ilé ló dà o. Here we go. Ajé tó pawó ilé ló dà ó. Beautiful. Let's do that last one again. Àfẹ̀kẹ́ àfọ̀dàlẹ̀. Ajé tó pawó ilé ló dà ó. Àfẹ̀kẹ́ àfọ̀dàlẹ̀. Ajé tó pawó ilé ló dà ó. Next one. Ọ̀pẹ tẹ́rẹ́rẹ́. I'm gonna say the whole thing. Ifa iwo ló bá Ifá ló bá. Ọ̀rúnmìlà jẹ́ mórí mi ló pa ayé já. Okay, I'm gonna break it down. Ọ̀pẹ tẹ́rẹ́rẹ́. Ọ̀pẹ tẹ́rẹ́rẹ́. Again. Ọ̀pẹ tẹ́rẹ́rẹ́. Ọ̀pẹ tẹ́rẹ́rẹ́. Ọ̀pẹ tẹ́rẹ́rẹ́. Ọ̀pẹ tẹ́rẹ́rẹ́. Ifá iwo ló bá Ifá ló bá. Ifá iwo ló bá Ifá ló bá. Ọ̀rúnmìlà jẹ́ mórí. Ọ̀rúnmìlà jẹ́ mórí. Mi lápò ayé já. Mi lápò ayé já. That again. Ọ̀rúnmìlà jẹ́ mórí. Ọ̀rúnmìlà jẹ́ mórí. Mi lápò ayé já. Good. And then in the front of Mori is an N, so it's kind of hard to hear, but make sure Ọ̀rúnmìlà jẹ́ mórí, mórí. Okay. Ọ̀rúnmìlà jẹ́ mórí. Ọ̀rúnmìlà jẹ́ mórí. Mi lápò ayé já. Mi lápò ayé. Ọ̀rúnmìlà jẹ́ mórí. Mi lápò ayé já. Ọ̀rúnmìlà jẹ́ mórí. Mi lápò ayé já. Beautiful. Ọ̀rúnmìlà jẹ́ mórí. Mi lápò ayé já. 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 Ọ̀pẹ tẹ́rẹ́rẹ́. Ọ̀pẹ tẹ́rẹ́rẹ́. Ifá iwo ló bá Ifá ló bá. Ifá iwo ló bá Ifá ló bá. Ọ̀rúnmìlà jẹ́ mórí. Mi lápò ayé já. Ọ̀rúnmìlà jẹ́ mórí. Mi lápò ayé já. Ọ̀pẹ tẹ́rẹ́rẹ́. Ọ̀pẹ tẹ́rẹ́rẹ́. Ifá iwo ló bá Ifá ló bá. Ifá iwo ló bá Ifá ló bá. Ọ̀rúnmìlà jẹ́ mórí. Mi lápò ayé já. Ọ̀rúnmìlà jẹ́ mórí. Mi lápò ayé já. Beautiful. I'm gonna put all the first three lines together. Ọ̀pẹ tẹ́rẹ́rẹ́. Ifá iwo ló bá Ifá ló bá. Here you go. Ọ̀pẹ tẹ́rẹ́rẹ́. Ifá iwo ló bá Ifá ló bá. Ọ̀rúnmìlà jẹ́ mórí. Mi lápò ayé já. Ọ̀rúnmìlà jẹ́ mórí. Mi lápò ayé já. Good. Ọ̀pẹ tẹ́rẹ́rẹ́. Ifá iwo ló bá Ifá ló bá. Ọ̀pẹ tẹ́rẹ́rẹ́. Ifá iwo ló bá Ifá ló bá. Ọ̀rúnmìlà jẹ́ mórí. Mi lápò ayé já. Ọ̀rúnmìlà jẹ́ mórí. Mi lápò ayé já. Beautiful. The whole thing. Ọ̀pẹ tẹ́rẹ́rẹ́. Ifá iwo ló bá Ifá ló bá. Ọ̀rúnmìlà jẹ́ mórí. Mi lápò ayé já. Ọ̀pẹ tẹ́rẹ́rẹ́. Ifá iwo ló bá Ifá ló bá. Ọ̀rúnmìlà jẹ́ mórí. Mi lápò ayé. Good. Ọ̀pẹ tẹ́rẹ́rẹ́. Ifá iwo ló bá Ifá ló bá. Ọ̀rúnmìlà jẹ́ mórí. Mi lápò ayé já. Ọ̀pẹ tẹ́rẹ́rẹ́. Ifá iwo ló bá Ifá ló bá. Ọ̀rúnmìlà jẹ́ mórí. Mi lápò ayé já. Ọ̀pẹ tẹ́rẹ́rẹ́. Ifá iwo ló bá Ifá ló bá. Ọ̀rúnmìlà jẹ́ mórí. Mi lápò ayé já. Ọ̀pẹ tẹ́rẹ́rẹ́. Ifá iwo ló bá Ifá ló bá. Ọ̀rúnmìlà jẹ́ mórí. Mi lápò ayé já. Àfẹ̀kẹ́ àfọ̀dàlẹ̀. Ajé tó pawó ilé ló dà ó. Àfẹ̀kẹ́ àfọ̀dàlẹ̀. Ajé tó pawó ilé ló dà ó. Yeah, hurry up. Ọ̀pẹ tẹ́rẹ́rẹ́. Ìfà ìwo ló bá Ìfà ló bá. Ọ̀rúnmìlà dé mórí mi lápò ayéjá. Òpẹ̀tẹ́rẹ́rẹ́. Ìfà ìwo ló bá Ìfà ló bá. Ọ̀rúnmìlà dé mórí mi lápò ayéjá. From the beginning, kò jẹ́ má gbà á. Inú rẹ̀ ló dùn sí i. Ìfà òjé kò bí sáwọ́ lówó. Kò jẹ́ má gbà á. Inú rẹ̀ ló dùn sí i. Ìfà òjé kò bí sáwọ́ lówó. Gbogbo onífà gbó. Gbogbo èlò bá ṣe. Ose awúrìlà gbogbo onífà gbó. Gbogbo onífà gbó. Gbogbo èlò bá ṣe. Ose awúrìlà gbogbo onífà gbó. Ìyá kéré. Ẹ̀yin níyàwó. Ibi wọ́n ń pè náyà kéré àwọ̀ ajá nígbè o. Ìyá kéré. Ẹ̀yin níyàwó. Ibi wọ́n ń pè náyà kéré àwọ̀ ajá nígbè o. Àfẹ́kẹ́. Àfọ̀dàlẹ̀. Adé tó pawó ilé lọ́dà o. Àfẹ́kẹ́. Àfọ̀dàlẹ̀. Adé tó pawó ilé lọ́dà o. Òpẹ̀tẹ́rẹ́rẹ́. Ìfà ìwo ló bá Ìfà ló bá. Ọ̀rúnmìlà dé mórí mi lápò ayéjá. Òpẹ̀tẹ́rẹ́rẹ́. Ìfà ìwo ló bá Ìfà ló bá. Ọ̀rúnmìlà dé mórí mi lápò ayéjá. Kò jẹ́ má gbà á. Inú rẹ̀ ló dùn sí i. Ìfà òjé kò bí sáwọ́ lówó. Kò jẹ́ má gbà á. Inú rẹ̀ ló dùn sí i. Ìfà òjé kò bí sáwọ́ lówó. Gbogbo onífà gbó. Gbogbo èlò bá ṣe. Ose awúrìlà gbogbo onífà gbó. Gbogbo onífà gbó. Gbogbo èlò bá ṣe. Ose awúrìlà gbogbo onífà gbó. Ìyá kéré. Ẹ̀yin níyàwó. Ibi wọ́n ń pè náyà kéré àwọ̀ ajá nígbè o. Ìyá kéré. Ẹ̀yin níyàwó. Ibi wọ́n ń pè náyà kéré àwọ̀ ajá nígbè. Àfẹ́kẹ́. Àfọ̀dàlẹ̀. Adé tó pawó ilé lọ́dà o. Àfẹ́kẹ́. Àfọ̀dàlẹ̀. Adé tó pawó ilé lọ́dà o. Òpẹ̀tẹ́rẹ́rẹ́. Ìfà ìwo ló bá Ìfà ló bá. Ọ̀rúnmìlà dé mórí mi lápò ayéjá. Òpẹ̀tẹ́rẹ́rẹ́. Ìfà ìwo ló bá Ìfà ló bá. Ọ̀rúnmìlà dé mórí mi lápò ayéjá. All right, you said round of applause. That's good. We getting it. Yes.
So do you say all of this when it comes to the end, or is it just
The whole thing. But there's nothing worse than being the only person that knows the words in your favorite song. So if I'm doing it and if I notice people don't know it, then I'll just cut it off. But we're practicing so that when we do it, you do the whole thing. You do the whole thing. And so the whole room is so powerful. And like I said, it's a very special thing. And Orumila, the Ifa practice, all of them have their own unique things, but the Ifa practice is one of the most elaborate of all of the Orisha practices. So many angles and chambers and different dynamics. So we're gonna keep working on this, but I just wanted to go over this. We'll go over it again before we leave. So a couple other things. One other thing I want to talk about is giving our offerings of Obi to Ifa. So when we talk about using the Ikin to Ifa, it's not something that can be done with everyone's Ikin because the Ikin are going to speak when we're doing the reading. So the Ikin have to be well taken care of. So if someone is still learning and so they don't know how to take care of the Iking, or maybe they're busy and they don't get a chance to take care of the Iking, then we won't want to use the Iking because it won't be able to speak very well. With that understood, if you have Iking and when you get Iking, if you don't have it, it's very important to take good care of your Iking because when the time comes that it needs to speak, you want it to be very, very powerful. So I want to talk about the things that we should be doing to take care of our Iking. And so, um, Ifakunle, why don't you give us some things that you've learned? What are some things that you have to do in order to take care of your Iking?
So what I do is that like every month or every week or so, at least try best to check on it and monitor to see if it gets like dirty or if bugs get in it and it gets dirty from that.
Mm-hmm.
And like every month or month and a half, also appease your fa
Mm-hmm.
with OB and OT.
Been very good. What he said is exactly correct. That first of all, you want to check on it, meaning you want to open the top and you want to look at the actual Iking, the seeds. They say that Orumila, when he was on Earth, he was a very, very beautiful, dark skinned Baba. So when you look at the king, you want to see them to be black, not dusty, not ashy, but well um, moisturized king, which come from the various things that Fakune was saying that when you're giving OT to your Ikinifa, that's moisturizing it. Then when you give offerings, other offerings like hen to your Ifa, then we also give palm oil. Then we also give salt and OT. Those things all help to moisturize and feed the Iking. So for the record, we should wash our Ifa at a minimum once a year. Wash meaning with the sacred herbs. If you're in a temple, then you should wash your Ifa at the time of the temple's Ifa festival. That's when all of the people come together that are in the temple and we all wash our Ifa together. Okay. Even if you haven't been around or you've been busy or you live in another place, that's the time when everyone comes together to wash their Ifa. Okay. Then, whenever we wash our Ifa with the herbs, then we always feed it with an animal. So that always follows up that. So that's very important. That should be done at least once a year. Then, and it's only at really necessary to do it once a year. You don't have to wash it with the herbs more than once. You don't have to unless there's other types of circumstances. So once a year is good. Then we want to feed our Ifa with an animal at least twice a year. But if someone that's really praying to their Ifa, then every season, every quarter, so maybe 4 times a year. If someone is really using their Ifa to generate blessings and make things manifest, once a month is ideal. Again, all this is based on our budget, but we should feed our Ifa once a month so that it's strong at all times. So that if something comes up and you do need to do the reading, like we talked about earlier, your Ifa is ready. You take it out, you can feel the energy. It's vibrating. Ifa is ready to speak. If someone, let's say, had not been taking care of their Ifa, they didn't know what they should have been doing, and so then now we want to do a reading with the I King, then we would have to wash that king first in the herbs and then feed it, then wait a couple of days and then do the reading. Ideally, wait a couple of days if possible and then do the reading. Okay. So once we have our king, it's not all lost if we haven't been taking care of it. You know, if we begin taking care of our Ifa again, we start off with washing, feeding, which is a ritual in itself. Each of these things are really deep rituals. So, we're in on the topic of how do we take care of our Ifa. So first and foremost, we should make sure it's washed in the herbs once a year. Again, that's not like something that you can just buy the herbs and just wash them. You have to know the incantations, because this thing is something that's spiritual. We have to be able to call the spirit of a Rumila that does not live in the Iking. The spirit of Orumila lives in the universe. So we have to be able to call the spirit of Orumila into the Iking to sit down to in the Iking to do its work. So when we wash it with the herbs, we have to be able to also be able to call the Iking down. So that's very important. So in addition to that, washing and feeding our Ifa once a year, just as our Fakunle said, that we should be, I love the term he used, checking on it first and foremost, because some people, they don't know any better. Months will go by, they never even open the top. They don't even know the condition of what it looks like inside. So you have to, at a minimum, just look inside. When we pray on our worship days, our E5 days, we should be opening the top and praying. We should open the top and pray on our worship days. So that's one way that you can keep tabs on it. If you see bugs that are inside, that's no problem, because it's like life is generating and germinating inside on your ikin. So it's not a bad thing if you open and see bugs. It's only something that we have to fix when we want to touch it with our hands and when we want to do the reading. Okay. So making sure that our Ifa gets OT and OB every O'Shea Ifa. If we can't do every O'Shea, every other O'Shea. We can't do every other O'Shea, every few O'Sheas, once a week, once a month, something that's regular based on what we can afford. If we can afford every O'Shea, every O'Shea. And then comes an important part of spirituality, which is discipline, meaning we have to have our own discipline to make sure that we are going to our Ifa every O'Shea Ifa. That's very important, that we realize, oh, this is O'Shea Ifa, that we make the time, that we go to our Ifa, that we make O'Shea, meaning that we pray and that we give the offerings of the OB and the OT. And anytime Ifa is not like Christianity, meaning when if you don't do something, you're gonna get cursed or you're gonna go to hell. It's not like that. But it's a missed opportunity to gain your blessings and to build your relationship, because all of this is building your relationship with Ifa. If someone doesn't have Ikini Ifa, as I always say, on the worship days, you should try to link up with someone and give offerings to their Ifa. But this is a very important thing. This worship day is the day that is like our church or our mosque day. So you'll see on Fridays, people are going to the mosque in large numbers. You'll see on Sundays, people are going to church in large numbers. We have to have the same dedication to our own worship day. You'll see the Jews, they won't even use any technology. They'll be walking in a building instead of using the elevator on their worship day and the day before, because this is their spiritual practice. We as practitioners, we have to be more disciplined about our spiritual practice. We have to never miss a O'Shea. have that as a goal and not say, oh, I missed it. Oh, I missed it. Oh, I missed it. It's no big deal. No. And then again, if if the same as Christians and Muslims, they still practice even if they don't have their own church. So if someone doesn't have any king, you still should link with someone that does, or at at, at the least best situation, which is doing it virtually, just making sure that it gets that the relationship is being built, because it's through our relationship that we are able to have the spiritual ashe, the blessings that make things happen, you know? So it's very important. Again, we're on the topic of how do we take care of our ikin ifa. So this is how. Um, so we're making O'Shea as frequently as possible. The the minimum is on the worship days, because you can give these offerings any day. You can say, you know what, I want to give offerings to my ifa today. It just came to my mind. You can always go do it. You don't have to wait for the worship day. So that's at a minimum. So we're washing our so when we're giving the offerings, let's say I've done a good job, I've been giving my offerings to my ikin all month long. When it comes to the new month, that's when you take all of the kola nut that has been building up, because when you give the kola nut, right, you put two inside the pot, you eat one and you save one for later, right? So every shade, you got two kola nut, two kola nut, two kola nut. So in a month, your ifa pot is going to be full of kola nut. So every month you take all of the kola nut out. You actually take everything out of your pot, and you take your ikin, you put them on a plate. You take the dried up kola nut and you put it into a some type of uh, bowl. Let's say we'll put it into a bowl. So the ikin go on a plate, the dried up kola nut go into bowl. A dried up kola nut can look like an ikin, so it's very important that you pay attention to what you're looking at to make sure that you don't throw away an ikin, because people have made the mistake before. So make sure you put the ikin on the plate, the dried up kola nut in the bowl. You want to count your ikin, and it's very important when we talk about how to take care of your ifa. It's very important to know how many ikin that you have at all times. Someone should always be able to say, I have this many ikin, because that's how you keep track of whether they all are there and whether a mistake has been made. When we're working with your ifa, like let's say you give your ifa to someone to do a reading or to wash and feed it, you want to know how many ikin that you should be getting back from them. So that's very important too. So knowing the number of ikin that you have is very important. We count our ikin: five, five, three, two, one. That number makes up 16. So that's a sacred. Again, remember I said everything with the ikin is ritual. Every little detail. So even counting the ikin, we don't just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 16. Even the counting is a ritual. 5, 5, 3, 2, 1. Okay. So we we've counted our ikin on the plate. We have the kola nut that are from the last month that are dry. So let's say it's 31 days in the month. We're doing this on the 31st day, or let's say the Obatala day before the Osheifa in the new month. You can do it either way. Now you've separated all of them. Now, depending on the condition of the ikin, if the ikin seem like they could be that they have things that's caked on. It could be mold on them. It could be uh, bugs on them. It could be things. If it needs to be cleaned, then you'll just take a paper towel and you'll wipe. I'm sorry, each one down one by one, or you can wipe them in groups. Okay. Then you take your ifa pot and you wash your ifa pot in soap and water. Okay. Regular soap. But if you have black soap is great. But regular dish soap, wash with soap and water, dry it. Then you bring it back. Then you take your ikin and you put them back into your pot. When you put your ikin back into your pot, you put them in there: five, five, three, two, one. Okay. If you have extra ikin, then you'll take note of what the number of that extra is, and you put that back into your pot. Okay. We do this every month at the either the last day of the month or the Obatala day before the Oshe Ifa day. That's the first Oshe Ifa day of the month. So, for example, today is May 1st, but it's Jakuta day. We could have did it yesterday, or we say, well, I'm gonna make Moshe on Friday, so I'll do it on Thursday. Okay. So after you put your iking back into the pot, you've washed the pot with soap and water. You put your iking back into the pot. You put your pot back to where it belongs, and then you'll just take OT and you'll just spray OT 3 times, and then put the top back on it, and then put your head down. Okay. So we've washed it with the omiero and fed it. Now every month we've been doing this. Every Oshe we've been giving the offerings of the colon and obi. If you don't know how to um, throw the colon nut and how to read the colon nut, no problem. You just take out the colon nut, you pray to it, then you break it into the pieces of 4 or 3 or 5, whatever you have. You put 2 down on top of the king. You eat one. You don't have to eat the whole thing. You could just eat a small piece of it and eat it throughout the day, or you could just eat the whole thing. Then you spray the OT, and then you put the second OB. We give 2 OB every time. So I say that again. Take out the 2 OB, touch it to your head, touch it to your chest. You pray into it. Then you open the OB, put 2 inside. You eat one. You put the fourth one off to the side for you to eat later the next day. It's holding the prayers and the blessings. Then you take the OT. People often ask what type of OT. Any type of OT. It does not have to be gin. Gin is only associated sometimes with Nigeria because they were colonized by the British, and the British like gin. Some people associate rum because it's maybe from Cuba, but it's only rum because they made rum in Cuba. But it's any type of OT. It just has to be 40% or more. It can't be beer and it can't be wine. It has to be liquor. Liquor. But anytime, any kind. But it should not be um, chemically flavored like Ciroc vanilla, or should be something like that. So it shouldn't be even the Captain Morgan. It shouldn't be any spice rum like that. Just natural ting. So because all of that is fake, so it gets residue on your Ifa or your Orisha. So when we so you spray your tea, then you put your second OB. Put your second OB down. All right, good. Now you put your head down. That's every O'Shea or once a week, whatever best you can do. Now, when it's time for your birthday and all things are available, your babalao is available, you have the time, the schedules link up. Now you bring your Ikini Fa. Now we do a special reading, the ancient old way, and we use your Ifa. We actually use the same Ikin that you've been praying to every 5 days, the same Ikin that you've been giving offerings to, this Ikin that you've been pouring your heart into, telling the Ifa thank you for the good things, crying to Ifa about the bad things, asking for this, praying for that. You've been pouring your heart into this Ikin. This Ikin knows you. So this Ikin can speak for you. So it's a very powerful ritual again. But people often ask, well, is this reading more accurate than if we use the Opoele? No. It's the same accuracy. We just are not engaging in the ancient ritualistic way that Orumila did readings when he was on earth. Okay. So we take the time, we give the offerings. I'm sorry, we take the time and we do it in the ancient way on our birthday. We take the time, we do it on the ancient way, in the ancient way when we have a child and the child's born, which is called the Esentaye, Akosejaye. All right. We take the time and we do it this way for the New Year's reading, the European New Year's reading, and your spiritual New Year's reading. Okay. and any other type of big thing that happens. Now, you can do it every month, every time you do a reading, but you are going to be paying double the price. That's the only thing. So, people that have the money like that, they do it like that. They say, I don't want to spend my money on nothing else but Ifa. So, every time I do a reading, bring out the king. You know what I'm saying? So, don't get me wrong. There are people that do it like that. And the big babas, the big chiefs, they do it like that too, because they have the money. And people will be looking at them like, why are you using Opole anyway? Every time, should be using at least once a month, your king. So people do it frequently, but it's a big deal. It's a big deal. Also, when a babalawo does his reading with his king, he calls people over, babalawos, to come and pray, to give messages, to he cooks for them. He has drinks for them. Like it's a big deal. It's a big to do, you know. So, I'm doing duty with the king. I'm calling people, letting them know your Friday. So shade five, the first of shade five for the month. When you're free, I want you to come over because I'm gonna be doing reading with my king. When people hear that, they know, oh, okay, all right. People are gonna come over, they're gonna be dressed up. They're gonna be not necessarily like for a festival, but they're gonna be dressed nicely because the Babalawas are coming over to give some support to our fellow Babalawo. That Babalawo is gonna have to pay those people. You're gonna have to also cook for those people, have drinks for those people. So even if they do it once a month, even if they do it once a week, it can't be like, oh, I just feel like doing it once a week. So I'm not gonna do all that for y'all. No. If someone says he king, that means they're getting taken care of. It's a ritual, you know. So it's a very important thing. It's a very important thing. So I wanted to talk about that today because, these are things that we see, but we don't always know the depth of what's happening. And when we talked about the OB, just to go over some of those gestures that you guys see that we're doing, or maybe you haven't seen before. But when we are throwing the color nut, when we get two up, two down, that means obien. That means yin means accepted. So that means your OB has been accepted. When we get obien, let's say I'm in the back of the room and I can't hear what they're doing. I should still know what each sign is by what the people do. So when they throw the OB, if it comes out obien, you put your head to the ground and you hail that Orisha. Okay? If it comes out alafia, then you do this gesture. Alafia. Alafia. Okay? Then you can still put your head down too. If it comes out Iwa, Iwa is it's not yes, it's not no. Iwa means character. And we snap 3 times. To remember that, imagine it's like there's 3 up, 1 down, so we snap in 3 times. That's for Iwa. And this is only the first throw. Once we're asking questions, then you don't necessarily do these things. It depends on the context. If we get 1 up and 3 down, that means oka, oka, and we touch the ground and we touch our chest 3 times. We touch the ground first, and then we touch our chest. What we're saying, what we're doing is all of our worries, all of our concerns, all that we are um, battling in the moment, all that's on our heart, we taking it from our heart and we laying it down in front of the Orisha or in front of Ifa. So Ifa knows you have something on your chest, as they say, something's on your mind. So you're taking what's on your mind, but for us, what's on your chest, and we're putting it down on the ground. When you're doing that, don't just do it. Actually, lay your problem down, lay your worry down. Okay, don't just do it. Okay, if I knows that I'm worried about this, I'm not gonna worry anymore. I put it before you. You do it 3 times. After you do that third time, don't worry anymore. Cause that's what Ifa is saying. Don't worry. Don't worry. Okay, Okan means don't worry. Then we ask questions after that. about what we should do now. But that's what that is. So again, if I'm in the back, I can't hear what they're saying, but they throw the OB, I see they touch the ground 3 times, that means it's okay. Then the last one is if they all are face down, that means Ishegun, Ishegun on the first throw only. If it comes all down on any other of the marking of the throws, it means something different. When it's Ishegun, we make a knuckle or make a fist and we hit our knuckles on the ground 3 times. That means Ishegun. That means that our obstacles that are in front of us, that Ifa has now put them face down. And then we do some rituals with those Obi. Okay. That's called Ishegun. We hit on the ground 3 times. Okay. Obi is a whole world. And it's not even something that I teach publicly for so many reasons. But first and foremost, because it took me so long to be able to learn it, to be with the elders and watching them do it and to really understand it. So it's not something that I can give away freely. It's something that I only teach to people that I can trust the information with and that have shown some dedication to me as the teacher because it's that deep. And we only teach it as a reward for learning how to make O'Shea because people will try to take the information and start throwing the Obi without having learned how to do all of the rituals, which is a natural desire to want to get to the end. But what we have to remember, and this is a very important thing to understand, is that the Orisha do not live inside of the pots. The Orisha don't live inside of the objects. That those pots, those objects are the seat, the throne, and we call the Orisha to that place. Now, don't get me wrong, the Orisha could be there before you get there. The Orisha could be waiting for you. So that's why we knock on our pot 3 times before we open to show respect, to say the Orisha may be there, so I don't want to just surprise them. But we can't assume that the Orisha are there. So, in order for us to communicate with the Orisha, we have to know how to call them. If we don't call them, we don't know what spirit we're talking to. Because there's spirits around us all the time. I feel a couple right now. They've been trying to make, I'm trying to teach. I can't talk to you right now. So you don't know what spirit you're talking to. So you can talk to somebody, but you don't know if it's Oshun that you're trying to pray to. You don't know if it's Eshu because you didn't even call them. You didn't say the names that make them want to come. You didn't honor them with the words to honor that they like. So to then jump to the process of throwing cola nut or coconut to them, and you haven't even called them, is jumping the gun. So once we learn how to make O'Shea, then we learn how to throw OB. If you're throwing OB now and you haven't learned the process of making O'Shea, stop. And when you need to know something, take the time and ask somebody to ask for you. There's nothing wrong with that. You can give the offerings to show your appreciation without saying the without throwing it. So just for now, show your appreciation, but don't try to open the way for communicating and you haven't learned how to throw. I mean, have how you haven't learned how to call the spirit. Otherwise, you're never sure what spirit you're working with. So these are very important, very important, very important, very important components to our spiritual practice. So I'm going to stop there for today. I'm going to talk briefly about our festival that's upcoming, Isheshe Festival. This Isheshe Festival is a very important festival, very, very important. This is something that started back in very recently back in Yoruba land. All the religions in Nigeria have holidays. The Muslims have holidays. The Christians have holidays. The Yoruba, several holidays. The Yoruba came together and they said, we as a people, we should have our own holidays for our traditional worship. And so they petitioned. The government finally granted us 1 day a year. Can you imagine? Only 1 day in August. And so this day has been determined that it's Isheshe Day all over the world. On this day, it's a day when the practitioners of the various practices come together from far and wide. So priests that are from different cities come together. People from different places come together. Not just priests, I'm sorry, but devotees, all people that are involved. And they celebrate the Orisha. People come and they do displays of their own Orisha culture. And I'm going to start posting videos of various Isheshe days so that people can kind of see. It's a beautiful, beautiful occasion. I've been going since they started, and it's a very powerful thing. So one day I was here in the United States, and I said, you know what? We need the same type of thing. We need it in Isheshe Day. So I started the first Isheshe festival here in the United States, and this is in 2012. And so we've been doing it every year since then. It's been building, building, building. 2019 was the last time we did it big. Last time we did it, because then there was COVID after that. So this is our first time doing it back again. The purpose of this festival is for people that are uh, connected to a particular Orisha to rep for their city and rep for their Orisha to come out. So people will be coming together. The Shango people, they'll have a group over here. The Oshun people, they'll have a group over here. The Obatala people have a group over here. The Ifa people have a group over here. And it's all organized ahead of time. And we will come out singing their songs in groups as we walk down the street. Egungun will still be coming out. All of this happening together. Then each group will say a prayer for the community, not will designate one person in the group to say the prayer. So it's a very powerful thing. We're going to be doing it just June 2nd. And so I just want to make sure everyone understands what we're doing and letting everybody know they're invited. Even still, people have not even been doing this in the country. So this year, when we do, we'll be the first people doing it in the country this year. And I feel like more and more people are going to start doing it as more and more people are learning about it. So contact me if you're interested in participating. If you haven't, let me know already. Uh, Please let me know if you're initiated to more than one Orisha, which Orisha you want to represent as, so we can coordinate. And just as you're planning ahead, just know that you're going to be dressed in the colors of that Orisha and the regalia of that Orisha. So if it's Oshun, you're going to be dressed like Oshun. So Batala, you're wearing all white, wearing the beads and things like, you're going to be coming out. If you're not initiated, you're still going to come not dressed with all the beads and things, but in the colors of that Orisha. So, and then you'll be with the group. So it's a very, very, very beautiful and powerful thing. So I'm looking forward to it. It's always a celebration. It's always a celebration. So contact me if there's any questions. I thank everybody for coming out. We're gonna go over our Kojema Ba one more last time to send us out. And we give thanks to all of the ancestors, Odisha and Olodubai, for bringing us together again today. Kojema Ba inú elódùn sí Ifá òjé kò bí sáwò lówó kò jẹ́ má bá inú elódùn sí Ifá òjé kò bí sáwò lówó gbogbo ní fagbó gbogbo èló gbà ṣe ọ̀sẹ̀ àwúrìlà bobo ní fagbó bobo ní fagbó gbogbo èló gbà ṣe ọ̀sẹ̀ àwúrìlà bobo ní fagbó ìyá kéré ẹ̀yin níyàwó ìmí wọ́n ń gbé ìnáyà kéré àwọ̀ ajá níbè o ìyá kéré ẹ̀yin níyàwó ìmí wọ́n ń gbé ìnáyà kéré àwọ̀ ajá níbè o àfẹ̀kẹ́ àfọ̀dàlẹ̀ ajé tó pawó ilé lọ́dà o àpèké àfọ̀dàlẹ̀ ajé tó pawó ilé lọ́dà o ọ̀pẹ̀tẹ́rẹ́rẹ́ Ìfà èwo ló bá Ìfà ló bá Ọ̀rúnmìlà jẹ́ ń mórí mi lápò ayé já ọ̀pẹ̀tẹ́rẹ́rẹ́ Ìfà èwo ló bá Ìfà ló bá Ọ̀rúnmìlà jẹ́ ń mórí mi lọ́pọ̀ ayé já. Àṣẹ o, ẹ̀làbòrú, ẹ̀làbòyè, ẹ̀làbòṣiṣẹ́, àgbó, àtọ́, àsúré, ìwòrìwò fún. Thank you all. Àṣẹ o.